Hey kids, what we're going to do today is learn about how we had the first two political parties. What I'd like you to do is make sure you're in Unit 5. Go to the next open page and call it Rise of Political Parties. We're going to take down a few notes on the top, and then we're going to turn the rest of it into a T-chart. The first president that we elected was a guy by the name of George Washington. And what he did is he set a precedent. And a precedent is an action or a decision that later serves as an example. So the precedent that he set was he created a cabinet. And in his cabinet, he had 5 people. And each person had their own job. Every president since Washington has also created a cabinet. The cabinet has now grown to over than 20 offices. 2 of the people that were in his cabinet were Alexander Hamilton and Thomas Jefferson. They didn't really see eye to eye on much. The first 2 political parties that we had were the Republicans and the Federalists. So what I'd like you to do now is divide the rest of your paper into a T-chart. Go ahead and put the Republicans on the left, just like it is right here, and the Federalists on the right. Now, those of you that are wondering, oh, Republicans, are those the same Republicans that we have right now? No, they're not. So here we go. Jefferson and Hamilton. Jefferson is on the left. Hamilton is on the right. You guys probably know Jefferson because he signed the Declaration of Independence. He also was the Secretary of State under George Washington. The other person in the cabinet, well, actually, there were 5 people in the cabinet, but the person in the cabinet that Jefferson did not see eye to eye on was a guy by the name of Alexander Hamilton. He fought in the American Revolution, and his job in Washington's cabinet was the head of the Department of Finance, or basically the Secretary of the Treasury, the money guy. These 2 guys are very, very different. Whatever the issue is, they don't agree. Jefferson supports the common man, so that's the regular person. They don't need to be educated. He thought that the common man could make good decisions as long as they had the proper information. Hamilton, on the other hand, he favored the educated people. It's unfortunate because at that time, the educated people were mainly the people that had money so that they could put themselves through school. Hamilton thought that the educated people would make better decisions. Jefferson supported a weak central government. He wanted the states to have more power than the feds. Hamilton, on the other hand, supported a strong central government. Like I said before, whatever the issue is, these 2 men are on opposite sides of the fence. Jefferson thought that power should be given to the states, because after all, the states are what gave the federal government its power. Hamilton thought that the people that were running the federal government should have the authority to do so. They should not need to consult the states whenever they wanted to make a decision. He supported some states' power, but he still thought that the federal government should have more power than the states. Jefferson did not like taxing imports. So those are goods coming in. Hamilton supported a protective tariff. He wanted to make sure that foreign goods costed more than American-made goods. Jefferson was a member of the Republican Party. He favored strong states' rights. That is a huge issue. That is an issue that we argue about even today in politics. It was one of the main reasons that we fought the Civil War. You'll notice on the slide that I switched Republican to Anti-Federalist. It's the same thing. Jefferson's political party was known as the Anti-Federalists, which is the same as the Democratic Republicans. Just for short, I went ahead and I called it the Republicans. And again, to reiterate, that's not the same Republicans that we currently have. Hamilton was a member of the Federalist Party. He favored less states' rights, strong central government. Back to Jefferson. He supports agriculture. That's an agrarian society. He's from the South. Obviously, he's going to support agriculture. He had a plantation He had slaves. Slaves did the work on his plantation. He's all about agriculture. It's a good point that people can't live without agriculture. Now, Hamilton, on the other hand, he supports industry. And when you think about it, industry makes a lot of money. How many gadgets do you guys have that are built? iPod, iPad, cell phone. The list goes on and on and on. Back to Jefferson. He believes in freedom of speech and press. Hamilton thinks that there should be some restrictions on freedom of speech and press. Hamilton does not support criticizing the federal government. He thinks that's unacceptable. Jefferson's people mainly lived in the South and the Southwest, mainly the South. That's going to be the agricultural area. Hamilton's people, the Federalists, they hang out more in the Northeast. We call that the North back then. So we've got industry in the North. That's up top like Connecticut, Massachusetts, Vermont, Maine, New York. You get the point. Jefferson's people are down in the South. North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Virginia. The roots of the Civil War right here. They continue to grow. So before it was, do we want industry, agriculture? Do we want states to have power, feds to have power? Well, now it's broken into the two main political parties. You've got the Federalists in the North and the Republicans in the South. Back to Jefferson. He supports the Constitution, but he insisted on having the Bill of Rights. He did not want the federal government to be too powerful. Still scared of a president that might abuse the power, and he wants individuals to make sure that they have rights. After all, you guys are aware that as individuals, we don't have rights listed in the Constitution. Our rights come from the Bill of Rights. The Constitution just explains to the federal government what it can and can't do. Hamilton, on the other hand, he supports the Constitution just as it was. He thought that it did a great job. There was no point in having to add a Bill of Rights. Back to Jefferson. He supports a strict interpretation of the Constitution. That means you only have powers that are listed. If it doesn't say that you can do it, it's not a power that you have. Just because I like to play devil's advocate, I want to say that nowhere in there does it say that a president can purchase land. Jefferson did that. He bought the Louisiana Purchase, one of the best purchases that the United States ever made. Of course, that was my opinion. Back to Hamilton. He supports a loose interpretation of the Constitution. There's something in the Constitution called the elastic clause. Elastic is stretchy. That means the feds could stretch their power if they need to. The elastic clause is used regularly by the federal government. Back to Jefferson. Jefferson supported being allies with the French. After all, the French were our first ally. They helped us out during the American Revolution. We could argue reasonably that without French help, the United States might not have won that war. Back to Hamilton. He supports an alliance with Great Britain. We have a lot of British roots. We look back to our documents, such as the Magna Carta, the English Bill of Rights. Those are English documents that the United States borrowed some of the ideas to create our own system of government. Back to Jefferson, Republican. He supports state banks. Hamilton, obviously, the opposite. He supports the national bank. We currently call that the Bank of the United States. What I'd like you to do now is complete the T-chart. If I spoke too fast and you don't have the T-chart completed, I'd like you to go ahead and stop this video, go back, and make sure that you have all of the ideas that are Jefferson's Republican ideas listed below Jefferson. So that's on the left-hand side of your chart. And then you're going to go to the right-hand side of your chart and make sure that you have all of the ideas filled out below Hamilton. Have a rad day. We'll talk about this tomorrow.